Good morning and happy Monday. This is Heather Smith with BarrelRacingTips.com, and I'm popping in this morning with episode number 5 of Pistol's Progress. So right off the bat, as kind of an experiment, I would love for those of you tuning in to let me know how the sound quality is. I'm coming to you outside, and as you can tell, it's a little bit breezy, but I wanted to be able to broadcast these live videos from different locations, even when the weather conditions aren't necessarily perfect. So I have this earbuds with the microphone, so I would love to see your comments, and if you could tell me how the sound quality is, if you hear any wind noise or if my voice is coming through okay or at all. So also, because it's Monday morning, I wanted this live video to serve as our official Monday morning check-in. So tell me, how did your weekend go? Did you ride? Did you run and compete? And how were your runs? I'd love to hear all about it. And as a reminder, I'll be doing a Q&A Tuesday tomorrow evening. So if there's anything you have questions on, then that would be a great place for me to give you some ideas to lick and chew on. Awesome, Billy, thank you so much for reporting back on the sound quality. So as you can see, oh no, there's .com giving us an interesting view. So I'm gonna turn my head like this. That's the beauty of live video, right? So there's Frosty grazing in the background. .com is very relaxed, hanging out at the water tank. And over here we have Pistol. He's just hanging out at the hot walker. We already did morning therapy, and I just did his stretches. All I have left to do is boot him up, and then we're gonna do session number 5. And again, a lot of you know that I am starting Pistol's comeback with a month of ground conditioning. This is just because he's had so much time off, and he's had some injuries in the past. I'm just extra conservative with him. So it's so much better, it's so much easier to keep a horse together physically than to have him fall apart and then have to try to put him back together. So it's just, I think in general, even if you have a young horse that's always been sound and never had any issues, it's better to give yourself twice as much time as you would like to take to really get them in shape and at their best, and just be a little bit more gradual and conservative about ramping them up, and then you can just avoid so much soreness, and you really have the time to test your work as you go and then correct course wherever necessary. It just makes it so much less stress and so much more enjoyable for the horse, and I think it just puts the odds for success so much more in our favor when we give ourselves plenty of time. So this morning I have some I mentioned in my Instagram stories that I had a special diagram I put together for you, and I'll actually post this later when I get this in the house. I'll post it in the comments. But I had kind of a breakthrough last week in the last session I did with Pistol on the ground, and I wanted to pass this along to you because it totally applies to everything that we do with our horses on the barrels under saddle. And it has to do with the concept of combining bend in our horse and strong, powerful forward movement. And so I specifically remember many years ago when I had kind of taken my understandings to a new level, and I was really conscious about asking Pistol to really engage and really reach forward deeply underneath himself. And really my secret for asking my horse to do that is having a really good connection with my seat. They understand that if I ride them with a greater range of motion in my body, that they are to mirror that. But here's the thing, this is when it gets a little bit tricky, is when we're combining that powerful forward strong movement with bend, okay? So, and then do keep in mind the sound quality thing, because now the wind just came up, and I would love to know at any point in this video if I still sound loud and clear, or if you can actually hear any of that wind noise. But so anyway, horses by nature aren't necessarily they'll tear around and display their athleticism in the pasture and so forth, but there are certain specific combinations of attributes that you don't see them doing often or a lot of, or practicing on their own. And one of them is staying super forward and staying engaged in a circle with bend in their body, right? So a lot of times as we're training our horses, they can do one or the other like really well. They can either be straight and like really forward and reaching, or they can have some bend in their body, but then you can feel them like throttle down and we lose some of that engagement, right? So here's a little tip about bend. For one, is that we have to really make sure that we're not asking for too much bend, and that like bend, I always say bend can bind, and if we put a kink that's like too great in their body, it's just going to put a wall or a block in front of that free-flowing forward movement. And so bend is something that should actually be pretty subtle, but we want it to be consistent. And there's going to be times, of course, that we may overemphasize. You know, we exaggerate to teach, right? And then we're going to emphasize the bend that we need at the slower speeds if we want some element of bend going faster. But here's the thing, is that it's really critical that that gradual lateral bend in our horse's body, like as we go around a barrel, it goes from their poll to their tail, and it's not like a big kink in their neck. A lot of times we focus too much on their front end, we're overriding with our hands, forgetting about the whole, you know, what's behind us, the whole rest of the body, and we're just focusing on just pulling their head around. And you know, that is not correct biomechanics, and that is essentially going to get in our way. And but what happened when I was doing Pistol's ground conditioning last week was that I was really wanting him. I mentioned last week that to the left, he doesn't totally get inside out on the circle, but I can see like his head is just a little bit to the outside, and I really want his ribs yielded a little bit away, and I want his focus and his eyes and his ears kind of tipped to the inside towards me. And to the left, he gets a little, you know, and horses, they'll be better on one side versus the other, of course, and it's our responsibility to try to balance that out as best we can. So I was really encouraging him to get his focus on me, you know, and there are several ways that we can do that. I mentioned that to create this bend. I mentioned that in my video last week. Oh no, Kaylin says my headphones are broke. Okay, but Billy says you sound super clear. I wonder, okay, this is a total experiment. I'm gonna click this. Because I figure, I'm just wondering if these are working at all, the microphone on the earbuds. So, I would imagine though, if they weren't working, that the wind noise would probably be really bad. But maybe, okay, here's an experiment. If this microphone is really working well, if I held this up close to my mouth and out of the wind, I would love your guys' help on this. If I hold it like this, the sound quality should improve. So that would be awesome if you could report into me and tell me if it's a little bit better right now. So I'm gonna hold this for a minute. Great, I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for the help. This is just awesome. So all these little things to kind of up level these live videos is just really going to help me bring and do this at an even higher, more professional level where you can gain even more value from it. So, okay, perfect. So anyway, getting back to the topic, which was combining bend with that powerful, strong forward movement, right? So a lot of times our horses will find that they can do one or the other. Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Connie. Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna drop it, or maybe I'm gonna try this. Okay, now I just pressed the button on the microphone. So now that was one last experiment. Thank you so much for your help and your patience. So now tell me if there's an improvement or a difference that you hear. So, and I'll be watching the comments. So again, thank you so much. And I still would love to hear how your runs and your rides went over the weekend. So this is your official Monday morning check-in. So definitely let me know in the comments about that. So I was lunging him on a circle and asking him for that bend. Okay, great. Asking him for him to like yield his ribs to the outside and to just very subtly, you know, tip his attention to me. And I was realizing that I was getting one or the other. Either he could be like really forward on the circle and be a little kind of straight, or he could kind of bend towards me, but then his forward motion would just shift down and he would go slower. And he would almost kind of like short step a little bit with that inside front. Like he would put the bend in his body, but then it really shortened his stride. So this is what I ended up doing. I ended up like being a lot more conscious about where I was positioning myself on the circle. So I was a little bit maybe ahead of like his drive line, and so what I did was I moved back so that I could kind of ask for that bend from like, let's say, back from his flank instead of closer up to his shoulder. Made a world of difference. Then he was able to yield his ribs away from me and like stay around and keep that forward motion. So what this diagram basically shows is that this was the position, like let's say as he was going around in the circle that I was to start from, that he was having trouble maintaining bend and that strong, powerful movement. And then when I positioned myself and kind of angled myself back here, and then he could maintain both qualities. So speaking of the first 51, there are a couple exercises in the body control chapter, let's see, called flexion and motion. That's exercise 16 and exercise 17, separate and combine. So these are like the little qualities that go into a quality circle or a quality barrel pattern, and we really have to break them all down and be able to do them all individually and then be able to combine them, right? Because a lot of times we kind of do a halfway job of putting all the elements together and then we just go expect them to all come together perfectly on the pattern. But we need to know what the elements are. We need to get them all really, really fine-tuned, going slow or even on the ground. And then we need to ramp all these qualities up at speed and make sure we can hang on to the quality individually before we can really put them all together and combine them. And we'll have so much more success when we do that. So what this what I was reminded of last week, it reminded me of how when we're going around a barrel, we want to keep it like behind our leg, right? So if we're going around a barrel and it feels, and it like visually we're angling it in a way that like it always kind of feels like it's in front of us, we're probably going to have some issues getting a kink in our horse's forward motion. They're probably going to maybe overbend at the neck. They're probably going to be disengaging in their hind. We're probably over focusing our eyes down into the inside. We might even be leaning. We could be overriding with our hands. When we want to bring our focus back, sit deep in the saddle, even put our shoulders back, engage, like tip our own pelvis, like bury your seat bone, and really get engaged. At the same time, like round your lower back and keep your eyes up, and then put a little bit of bend in your rib cage and like really ask your horse, like it's like there's a string connected from their hind legs to your legs. So you're really asking them to really reach forward and keep that really gentle bend. And here's the thing, if we have developed these individual qualities I talk about in here, it really shouldn't require us holding even really any contact on the reins, especially going slow. Like we're right there with them for a little bit of guidance and if they need it in a run. But if we have done our job and developed the level of communication that we need, then we should be able to communicate to our horses that it's their responsibility to stay positioned, and that our body language by itself should tell our horse how we want, our subtle body language, how to stay with a position that we want. Because keep in mind, we can micromanage horses with body language too, even without reins. Even horses ridden bridleless can be done so totally in a way that is micromanaged, not any different than with reins. So something to keep in mind for creating more lightness and more response and understanding with less from us. So anyway, but like I said, that totally, what I realized was that when I changed my position and changed the angle and moved back and asked him for the forward movement and the bend from there instead of more from towards his front end, he was able to combine both the powerful, long, like engaged movement with the bend at the same time, even in the direction that is a little bit challenging for him. And it just totally applies on the barrels. And like I just described, like we've got to bring our focus, our attention back. We've got to keep the barrel like behind our legs, so that the difference is really between, think of it this way, we don't want to visualize, it's not like we're driving a wheelbarrow with with the one wheel in the front. Like, that's not what we want. We want to be more like a speedboat that has a motor in the back, and when a speedboat starts really going, that motor like engages and lowers in the water and the front end elevates. And then like we just unlock the keys to our horse's athleticism that way. So I hope this is helpful. All this stuff that I do that's really advanced, that applies on the ground, or that I do on the ground, totally applies under saddle. This is just a fantastic example. And if you wanted to go in more depth and make absolutely certain that you're not missing any of these little elements, and then you kind of have a program and an outline for combining them as you add speed, this would be a great resource. So it's available at 51barrelracingexercises.com. I'm just going to check in with some of the comments. So yeah, I hope this helps. I hope it helped with the sound quality. I'll kind of be able to tell, I think, when I'll rewatch this video myself later. But thank you so much for your help with troubleshooting it. It just like gives me more options for where and how I do these videos for you. I actually do have some super fancy a microphone that I invested in, that I haven't actually used yet, that goes with our good camera. And so it is on my list to get that figured out and eventually get back to doing more videos that I'll post on YouTube and stuff too. And when Pistol is actually ready to be ridden, that's on my list. But for now, I love popping in and doing this live just from my iPhone, and so it's a ton of fun, and I really, really love and appreciate your help so much. So thank you so much for tuning in. And let me see, I'm just gonna go through the comments, mostly about the sound. Let's see. Yeah, so Billy, as far as my lunging routine, in my book, The Next 50 Barrel Racing Exercises, I have conditioning schedules. And basically, I'm just modifying them just a little bit, but I'm basically following those as I start this month of groundwork. And also, as far as tips on my routine, you'll want to refer back to the first 4 of Pistol's Progress videos that I started with last week. They're here on my timeline on Facebook. If you go to videos, there's even a playlist I've created for it. So, gosh, I really hope this sound quality is okay in this wind. But I know that there's a way to get it perfect. It's just a matter of trial and error. So, anyway, I so appreciate you tuning in. I'm gonna experiment with my GorillaPod iPhone holder in the arena and see what kind of clips I can get from today. So I'm gonna go ahead and get him booted up while he's still nice and loose and warmed up from doing therapy. I've already stretched him, so I gotta get on that. Macy, this book is available at 51barrelracingexercises.com. My other barrel racing exercises book is available at 50barrelracingexercises.com. But if you ever wanted to find all my books in one place, you can always go to barrelracingtips.com, and there's a books link that will take you to the individual book pages. So, all right, that's what I've got for you this morning. Hope those tips about combining that strong forward movement and bend is super helpful and gives you some ideas for combining those qualities with your horses on the barrel pattern. So I will be back tomorrow, Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. for Q&A Tuesday, so I would love to see you then, and then I'll be tuning in again here at Live on Wednesday morning at 8 for another one of Pistol's Progress videos. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.